This is Central Park, 840 acres of prime real estate in the heart of New York City. It is quite probably the world's largest playground, an arena without walls, a stadium without seats, a place where everyone can be a kid and every kid can be a hero. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm John Tesh. And for most of us, a day in the park brings back those childhood memories, ninth inning home runs, last-second touchdowns, and jump shots at the buzzer. Of course, for almost all of us, those dreams remain just that, dreams. But each year, for a few special athletes, those fantasies become reality. And for the next 90 minutes, we'll meet some of those special athletes who, in retrospect, raise the rhetorical question, who could have imagined? In college basketball, everyone had high expectations for teams from the Big East, but no one could have imagined who would topple mighty Georgetown. In college football, who would have believed that going into the bowl games, Penn State would be unbeaten and ranked #1? Who could have foreseen that an unranked 17-year-old German would conquer Wimbledon, while his fellow countrymen would master the Augusta National? And if all that is hard to imagine, how do you think Larry Holmes must have felt waking up to find that the heavyweight champion of the world is named Michael Spinks? In pro football, the Chicago Bears started unexpectedly strong, and who could have predicted that a 300-pound defensive lineman would become a demon ball carrier and a national hero? Also, John Madden will show us some of the most entertaining plays of the year, and Brent Musburger will tell us about an unimaginable Kansas City comeback that made the Royals the kings of baseball. We'll be back with that story and more when we continue.
This special edition of CBS Sports Saturday is sponsored by Budweiser. Beechwood aged for that clean, crisp taste. This Bud...
Well, with the cold winter weather closing in, sports fans can always warm themselves in the memory of those boys of summer. There was Saberhagen and Gooden on the mound, Mattingly at bat and McGee on the bases, and those are just a few of the names who are going to be the stars of the next decade. And while they were stepping forward to be heard from, well, some of the greatest names in the history of baseball said, let's have one more moment in the spotlight.
He levels the bat a couple of times. Shao kicks and he fires. Rose swings.
There it is! There it is! Get out! Get out! All right!
Hit number 4192.
Baseball fans everywhere cheered when Pete Rose lined base hit number 4192 to pass Ty Cobb as the all-time Major League leader. Back in 1967, Rod Carew and Tom Seaver each won Rookie of the Year honors. 19 seasons later, their baseball careers would cross again. Seaver, the former Met prodigy, returned to New York City as a member of the Chicago White Sox. Looking for pitching victory number 300, Tom Terrific did not disappoint the New York fans at Yankee Stadium. Seaver became only the 15th major leaguer ever to reach the 300 plateau. Joined Seaver in the record books. Playing against his former team, the Minnesota Twins, Carew cracked career hit number 3,000, becoming only the 16th player to join that exclusive club. Phil Niekro's attempt at baseball immortality took as many strange twists and turns as the knuckleball from which he makes his living. Like Seaver, Niekro was attempting to win his 300th career game. He fell short against the Blue Jays in his first try. He then failed again in his second bid. And he was knocked out of the box in his third try. The best he could do in his fourth was a no decision. Finally, on the last day of the season, Niekro nailed down the elusive 300, giving baseball fans a last warm memory of the heroes of 1985. But during the heat of summer, a deep chill settled over the sport. There was a major drug scandal unfolding in Pittsburgh, and for the second time in 5 years, there was a players' strike. And once again, the ballparks were empty when the players and owners could not agree on the issue of salary arbitration. When the players walked, both sides acted quickly. A compromise was reached, and the strike was over within 24 hours.
Like everyone else, I'm pleased that this is over and we're back to playing baseball. I'm sorry that we couldn't get it done without a strike.
We have an agreement that we hope will work, that we're going to do our best to make work over the next 5 years.
But baseball was cast in an even darker shadow when player involvement in a Pittsburgh drug scandal began to unfold. Curtis Strom, a former clubhouse caterer from Philadelphia, was accused of selling drugs to major league players. A number of them testified under federal immunity. Each day meant shocking new headlines as more players, past and present, were implicated in the growing scandal.
Dave Park Parker of the Cincinnati Reds, J.R. Richard, once with the Houston Astros, Al Holland of the California Angels, and Jeff Leonard of the San Francisco Giants were implicated as having used cocaine.
Strong was found guilty by a federal grand jury on 11 charges of possession with intent to distribute cocaine in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Baseball attempted to put its troubles behind as the playoffs began. In the National League, the Cardinals and Dodgers squared off for the pennant. The Cardinals had lost the first 2 games, had come back to tie the series at 2 games apiece. Game 5 was 2-2 going into the bottom of the ninth, and up came Ozzie Smith. Here's the pitch, hit deep toward right field by Ozzie Smith. Away back, away back. Would you believe it? A home run by Ozzie Smith. He has done it. He has put the Cardinals ahead 3 games to 2. Game 6 and a new St. Louis hero, Jack Clark. He provided the long ball heroics. His 3-run blast gave St. Louis a 7-5 victory and propelled the Cardinals into the World Series. First time in history, the American League playoffs moved north of the border and into Canada. Toronto took a 3-1 series lead over Kansas City, but the Royals battled back, winning Game 5 2-0. Then in Game 6, light-hitting shortstop Buddy Biancalana became the hero by doubling into center field. He took third on an error, and that put the Royals on the road to a 5-3 victory, and it squared the series at 3 games apiece. In Game 7, Toronto manager Bobby Cox saw his Blue Jays lose the game and the pennant to Kansas City. The Royals became only the 5th team in history to overcome a 3-1 deficit and win a postseason series. The World Series stage was set. The Battle of the Show Me State, the I-70 series. The Cardinals won the first game 3-1 behind ace left-hander John Tudor. Game 2 featured more of that Cardinal magic. Terry Pendleton. He delivered a 2-out bases-loaded double in the top of the ninth. And that lifted the Cardinals to a 4-2 victory and put them up 2-0.
2 was the killer. The toughest loss that was the toughest ball game I've ever lost in my life.
St. Louis opened a 3-1 series lead, but the Royals came back in a Game 6 at the bottom of the ninth. Jorge Orta was safe on a controversial call. Up came Dane Orr.
Base hit loaded, 1 out. Swing and a base hit into right. Kansas City win. Here's the throw home by Van Slyke, and the runner is safe, and Kansas City wins the game 2-1.
After we won that game in the fashion in which we did win it, coming back with 2 runs in the bottom of the 9th inning, the 7th game was ours, with Saberhagen pitching.
Saberhagen, who hours earlier had watched the birth of a son, pitched like a man with another mouth to feed, shutting out the Cardinals 11-0 in Game 7. Once again, the Royals had rebounded after trailing 3-1, and the reward this time, their first World Series title.
By far the greatest moment of my life, because we defied all the odds. We came back time and time again, showed a lot of courage, showed a lot of heart, showed a lot of pride, and then came back and win. By far the best.
In 1985, Iowa won its 8th straight NCAA wrestling championship. The football team at Glenville High School in Glenville, Minnesota didn't win at all. They've now lost 68 straight. And Sweet Home High School of Buffalo, New York rolled to a record 219th consecutive victory in women's volleyball. Coming up, the year in college football.
Soon these streets will be teeming with people, all going after the American dream of success, just like you. Perhaps you should subscribe to the Wall Street Journal before they get here.
Call 800-228-2210 for this new Journal offer. 13 weeks for just $28 with a money-back guarantee. 13 weeks, $28. Phone 800-228-2210 now for the Wall Street Journal.
I'm Dan Marino, and at Christmas time, I take care of the hands that take care of me. I pass isotoner gloves to the hands that catch my passes, and I hand off these custom-fit isotoners to the hands that carry the ball. And of course, I never forget to take care of my blockers, because how can I throw a pass when I'm laying on my back? This Christmas, give isotoner gloves by Aris, and take care of the hands that take care of you.
What a perfect day for the Pentax Sport 35 motor camera. A compact 35mm that's all automatic. From film loading and speed setting to autofocus, advance, and rewind. So you're always ready for the next shot. Enjoy the moment while you capture the memories with your Pentax Sport 35 motor camera. Part of the growing Pentax family. Pentax, the freedom to be your best.
Wednesday, will a friendly card game get Mary out of debt?
You want me to get into the game because you think I'm a rube and you'll clean me out?
Or will it put her in the poorhouse? Wednesday.
This year, college football players were wrapped in over 112,000 miles of tape. That's enough tape to bandage the planet Earth 4.5 times.
College football. Every September, predictions are made, and every December, they're proven wrong. This year was no exception. And even our Pat Hayden and Jim Nance were surprised as some schools fumbled away opportunities, while still others hoped to bowl over the competition.
You know, Pat, every year in college football, there are unexpected things happening. But I think the biggest surprise this season was Penn State. The Nittany Lions came off a 6-5 year, and they emerged as the nation's #1 team.
And down in Miami, Vinny Testaverde steps in and plays quarterback, leads them to a 10-1 record. And in Oklahoma, the freshman quarterback Jamel Holloway steps in and leads them to the Orange Bowl. And the Michigan defense was spectacular. They only allowed 5 touchdowns all year.
Of course, a great story down at Grambling. For over 4 decades, Eddie Robinson's been winning football games, but this year had to be the most special one of all.
It was October the 5th when Eddie Robinson became college football's all-time winningest coach, picking up victory number 324 to pass the legendary Paul Bear Bryant of Alabama. At Notre Dame, Jerry Faust became the losingest coach in Irish history. After 5 seasons, the Faust era at Notre Dame came to a close. Lou Holtz had performed magic at Minnesota, and Notre Dame wasted no time in hiring Holtz as its next coach. TCU's Jim Wacker is a coach who made headlines for a different reason. When 7 players confessed to accepting illegal payments from alumni, Wacker kicked all 7 players off the team and immediately turned the investigation over to the NCAA.
It is ridiculous to stick our head in the sand anymore and say, hey, the problem doesn't exist. And if it's going to be corrected, it's going to be done by the coaches.
But there were many bright spots this year in college football, one of which was the resurgence of the service academies. At West Point, Army had its best season in almost 2 decades, and Air Force was also flying high. The Falcons at one point climbed to number 4 in the rankings and claimed the Commander-in-Chief trophy. However, the most celebrated trophy in college football is the Heisman. And this year it came down to quarterback Chuck Long of Iowa, who led the Hawkeyes to the Big Ten title, and running back Bo Jackson of Auburn, who rushed for almost 1,800 yards and 17 touchdowns.
In the closest vote in the history of this trophy, the winner is, from Auburn University, Bo Jackson.
It was a record-breaking season for running back Joe Dudak of Plymouth State. All he did was score 79 career touchdowns, more than any college player ever. 79 was also the lucky number for UCLA's John Lee. That's how many field goals he kicked in setting an NCAA career record. And on his way to making the All-America team, John Lee became an American citizen. All of America was watching on October the 19th when number 1 Iowa met number 2 Michigan, and it came down to the final play.
Rob Holtman is attempting a 29-yarder, which would beat Michigan. It's on its way, and it's good.
The Hawkeyes' joy was short-lived, as just 2 weeks later, Ohio State upset top-ranked Iowa 22-13. Florida moved to the top of the rankings and raised the question, should a team on probation be eligible for a national championship?
I think a team that's on probation, whether it's Oklahoma, Florida, should not win a national championship.
The records count for teams on probation. The losses certainly count for the teams they beat. Therefore, if they play, they're ranked.
The controversy didn't last for long. The next week, Florida fell to arch-rival Georgia, and a new number 1 emerged, Penn State.
Penn State being ranked as one of the top teams in the country, not a surprise ordinarily, but they were coming off a 6-5 record in 1984. And Joe Paterno entered this season with a new determination.
you know, he was very determined, more determined than I've seen him since, you know, the previous 2 years. And so I really feel that he knew that we had, you know, good days ahead of us.
The good days began in the first game of the season against highly ranked Maryland. The Penn State defense forced a turnover with 38 seconds remaining in the game as the Nittany Lions held on for a 20-18 victory.
Came out of that game saying, hey, boy, we ought to feel pretty good about ourselves. In fact, I think I told the squad that I said, hey, now you guys ought to start to think about how good you can be, not just are you good enough to win. How good can you be?
You know, I think the Alabama game was a big game as far offensively, and it was a big game, and we felt going in that, you know, we had to have a good passing day, a good running day, a good combined effort, you know, and I think we did, and fortunately for us, we won the football game.
After the Alabama game, I felt if we didn't get careless, we could come down to Notre Dame and Pitt, being the best football team we could be, and then it would just let it all hang out, and we would have a good chance for all the marbles.
But against Syracuse, Penn State almost slipped. Quarterback John Schaefer tossed a touchdown pass with just 1:53 to play to pull the game out for the Nittany Lions. 2 weeks later, Boston College almost pulled off an upset. But defensive tackle Mike Russo's interception for a touchdown capped a 16-12 comeback win. After a victory over Cincinnati, only Notre Dame and Pittsburgh remained for Lions.
If we had those two teams left at the end of the season, you know, we'd be ready for them. And there was no one in the world that needed to get us up for those games because we remembered the embarrassment that we felt after the games last year.
There would be no embarrassment this season, only sweet revenge. The Lions crushed Notre Dame 36-6, and then went on to whip arch rival Pittsburgh 31-0 to complete the regular season undefeated, untied, and ranked #1 in the country.
We're not a team of All-Americans. We don't have the names. We don't have the Heisman Trophy candidates, but we have an awful lot of good people.
The final hurdle for Penn State takes place the night of January 1st in the Orange Bowl against third-ranked Oklahoma. At stake, the national championship.
If we win, you know that you'll be the best, and we'll be 12-0, and nobody can say that they were undefeated. And at that moment, we'll realize if we're fortunate enough to win that football game, that we'll be the best.
In 1985, England's Steve Cram set new world marks in the 1,500 meters, the mile, and the 2,000-meter events, all within the span of 19 days. That's a world record for world records.
Come on along, I'll take you to the lullaby of Broadway. Hickory and ballyhoo.
The lullaby of Broadway.
And in the center of it all
is the Milford Plaza.
Stay at the Milford Plaza Hotel with cocktail dinner and breakfast for $43 per person. Discover why we are the lullaby of Broadway.
The Milford Plaza is the lullaby of all Broadway.
Introducing an incredible advance in Gillette shaving smoothness. New Atra Plus. The Plus is this unique white strip that releases lubricants as you shave. You never felt anything smoother. New Atra Plus by Gillette. The essence of shaving.
Now, another way to spell relief. Use sodium-free Rolaids. Like regular Rolaids, it consumes all the acid required to bring millions 100% relief. Plus, it's rich in calcium. Regular Rolaids and use sodium-free Rolaids for 100% relief.
We're not a company.
But we'll give you a chance to work where there's always a challenge.
We'll give you opportunities to learn, to develop.
To perfect skills that you thought were beyond your reach.
We'll help you build a career that can reward you for the rest of your life.
We're not a company.
We're your country.
We're the Army.
The Navy.
The Air Force.
The Marines.
We're the Armed Forces.
It's a great place to start.
For the Washington Redskins, it's a must-win situation. Coverage begins with the NFL Today, next on CBS Sports.
'85 was many things, but it was not an Olympic year. It was the year after. Some of the stars from Sarajevo and Los Angeles came back down to earth, while still others rocketed into even higher orbits. And a cherubic high-flying gymnast named Mary Lou proved that the sky is the limit. One year later, the faces are still familiar. They were America's class of 1984. Bill Johnson became the first American ever to win a World Cup downhill, conquering the grueling Lauberhorn at Wengen, Switzerland. That would lead to a gold medal in Sarajevo, Yugoslavia. And Johnson now thought he knew what to expect in 1985.
Millions. We're talking millions.
The real-life version of Hollywood's downhill racer saw his own life become a movie, going for the gold. His wind tunnel workouts and training were reaching a peak, and the old bravado was back with style.
My kind of snowfall, and if I don't win today, there's something wrong with me.
Well, in 1985, there was plenty wrong with Johnson's performances. For Downhill Billy, it was a dismal year. In a way, he was a victim of his own success. His 1984 victories placed him in the first draw, and he learned a very tough lesson.
What I learned this year was there's a lot more luck involved coming from the first group than there is, say, from the second group, where conditions are more consistent. And it's something that I'm just going to have to learn how to deal with, because coming from the first group, I don't think I'll be able to win as many.
In Los Angeles Summer Games, the fastest man was Carl Lewis. He tied Jesse Owens' mark of 4 gold medals. But despite his indisputable superiority within the confines of the Coliseum, Lewis' track record with the press was spotty, and in 1985, he looked to leave that problem behind.
Out of the blocks, Randy gets a great start. So is Ben Johnson. Here comes Carl Lewis, and Lewis will win it at the line.
Lewis continued to compete and win in 1985, but on a track in Los Angeles, he sustained a hamstring pull that hampered his effectiveness.
This is the first year I've had a major injury, and that set me back somewhat, but in a way it didn't. It just kind of pushed me forward a little bit because I needed a rest.
So Lewis used his time off to pursue his interests in singing, dancing, and acting. The better he communicates, the more marketable he'll be.
I did do one commercial in Japan, which probably paid more than most other people's 2 and 3 commercials put together.
Overall, 1985 has been good to Lewis. He owns the year's best marks in the 100 meters and long jump, and he's controlling his life.
What I think is important is to keep competing, try and study, and to try and be the best actor, singer, performer, athlete that I can possibly be, not necessarily just make direct money.
Willie Banks. He was a pre-Olympic favorite for a medal who came up empty in L.A. But in 1985, he atoned, becoming the male track and field athlete of the year and setting the world record in the triple jump. For Banks, it was a leap of faith.
Well, I always thought I could do it. And all of a sudden, something hit me. It's like, I don't know what it was. And I kind of looked inward, and I could see myself breaking the world record. It was a vision. I was shocked. I'd never had anything like that happen to me before. I knew I was going to do it. There was no problem. I didn't even worry.
Mary Decker Slaney. She was 1985's Female Track and Field Athlete of the Year, and hers too was a comeback drama. All through 85, she was haunted by memories, hounded by media, and hated by peers.
I don't feel like I have any reason to apologize. If anyone should do any apologizing, I think it should be Wysocki for talking about things she doesn't have any information about.
Slaney would answer in the way she knew best, letting her legs do the talking as they pounded out a world's record in the mile. But then, just when it looked like she would shatter another mark, disaster, shades of L.A.
But she is in obvious pain, and she's pulled off the infield as Richburg and Christina Boxer go by, and she appears to be holding her right calf.
About 357 kids. Oh, yeah.
Still so much.
Once healed, Slaney remained undefeated. She also settled her score with Zola Budd, easily outpacing the teenager in the 3,000 meters. All told, Slaney enjoyed her best season. Many detected a newfound maturity. And looking ahead, the new year will bring a baby.
Performance-wise, just the consistency and the quality of the performances this past year, I think this has been my best season to date.
The personality of the Olympics was Mary Lou Retton. 1985 was a year of non-stop appearances before adoring crowds. She was the envy of every teenager and politician in the land. It was a new life.
The biggest change in me would be I'm becoming a businesswoman, you know. I'm starting to learn the ropes, I guess you could say.
Well, Mary Lou plugged away all year, providing nutritional counseling about what the big boys eat and assaulting us for batteries. Through it all, she never forgot what vaulted her to fame and fortune.
Remember, you only get out of it what you put into it.
And so every day, she put in a good 5 hours at the gym, staying sharp under the tutelage of her mentor, Bella Caroli. But performing would never be the same.
I went into 1985 American Cup as kind of the older gymnast, and people were looking at me a different way. There was a huge, bigger pressure on me there. You know, oh, she's Olympic champion, she should win.
And that's precisely what she set out to do.
Two back handsprings to a tuck double back and nailed it. Tumbling right at Bella. Nice double back.
That was such a big success for me. I'm the only one that has ever done that 3 consecutive years in a row. Nadia didn't even do that. That was a big thing for me.
But the capper in a year of recognition was induction as the youngest ever member in the Olympic Hall of Fame.
Just being in the 1984 Games was a goal for me. To be inducted in the Hall of Fame is just, I would say, icing on the cake.
Mary Lou, her smile is worth its weight in gold. Still to come now, a look at what's been termed a bear market in the NFL. While in the NBA, the Lakers' stock has never been any higher. In a moment, Pat Summerall recounts the battles between the Europeans and the Americans in tennis and golf.
This is CBS.
Leif Johnson Ford and Ford Motor Credit have arranged for $500,000 in 8.8% financing.
We've got more new cars and trucks than we're comfortable with. Our inventories must be reduced quickly by December 31st. This offer is good for 1 vehicle per family. Now, if you choose another method of payment, you'll receive up to $1,000 cash assistance.
You'll save thousands because our program, unlike others, does not raise the sales price.
Even if the manufacturer offers low interest rates in January, our prices will probably not be this low again.
Leif Johnson Ford
is still the leader.
It would have to be Christmas Eve. Bring Miller's Outpost home for the holidays with Jordache jeans for him and her. They'll love the comfort and styling of these 5-pocket denim jeans that fit the way only Jordache can. You've got the look in Jordache.
7 seasons greetings from Miller's Outpost.
Lucky for us, you work Christmas Eve.
Bob Karstens at 5, 6, and 10, only on Channel 7 News.
Right there. Well, if Mr. Sutton will miss this putt and I'll make mine, we'll just finish this telecast right off.
Well, we did, but not the way David Ogren thought. It was a year of surprises on the PGA Tour. And Hal Sutton captured Memphis. One of 14 playoffs in 1985 that included Roger Maltby's win at Westchester. That surprised even his peers. Maltby hadn't won in a decade. And then there were the kids who'd never won at all and suddenly were winning everything. Some said nobody dominated the PGA Tour. Well, let me tell you something. These kids did, and raised the level of their sport. We even saw an amateur win, and that hadn't happened since cars had fins and Ike was the president. And the surprises continued in a remarkable Masters.
Look at this.
When you shoot an opening round 80, as Curtis Strange did, you're not supposed to win the Masters. But he had the lead with 6 holes to play.
For birdie. 5 under. He leads the 13th hole.
Bernhard Langer cut it to 2. But it was Strange's tournament. All he had to do was lay up short of the water at the par 5 13th. But guess what? He went for the green.
225 yards. He doesn't like that, he said. That is in the creek.
I'm shocked. So was Curtis. He made bogey and led by just 1. And Langer now putted for an eagle at 15.
If it goes in, he has the lead.
Still, he had a tie. And now Strange came to 15.
Appears to come off that a touch.
Water guards this green, too.
Oh, is it in the water? Yes, it is. There, the ripples tell the sad story.
Yes, when you shoot an opening round of 80, you're not supposed to win the Masters. Perfect. Bernhard Langer's win signaled yet another surprise in 1985. A new challenge by foreign players, and not just in golf. In tennis, we were blitzed by something called a teenage German named Boris Becker captured hearts, minds, and Wimbledon in 1985 with his daredevil style of play. While for John McEnroe, it was business as usual, except when it came to the business of winning. Yvonne Lindell took the U.S. Open, but it was the women who played the match of the year. In fact, it was better than that. It featured the greatest player in the game against the only player who might have more talent. Hanna won the first 5 games, but Martina forced a tiebreaker, and it went to 3-all. It was 5-3 with Hanna serving. And now it was set point, Mandlikova. But it was far from over. Martina won the next set 6-1, and that evened the match. But in the final set, Hanna scored the first break. She was up 5 games to 3 and only needed to hold serve for the match. But Martina got a break point. And they were even again. Hanna gave the choke sign. And Martina took the championship to a tiebreak.
Tiebreak. Mandlikova to serve.
The first point. The second. Hanna up 2-love. And now 3. And 4. And 5. And 6. And now Hanna had 7 match points. And now she had a championship. On a day when 2 women earned the pride of an entire sport.
In 1985, John Henry, horse racing's all-time money winner, retired. Mom's Command won the Triple Crown for fillies. But Spend-A-Buck, winner of the Kentucky Derby, became only the 2nd champion in 26 years not to pursue the Triple Crown. Coming up, the NBA, a year of redemption.
A lot of long-distance companies would like you to think they're just like AT&T, but take a closer look and see how different they really are. No operator service, no immediate credit for wrong numbers, and no service from many small towns. Only one long-distance company gives you full service, only AT&T. Sometimes there's just no substitute for the real thing. AT&T, the more you hear, the better we sound. AT&T, the right choice.
The car won't start.
Before winter trouble strikes, give your gas an STP tune-up. Used regularly, STP gas treatment helps break up and remove water to prevent gas line freeze-ups.
STP is the racer's edge.
What a beautiful Christmas this is going to be. With Timex Course, you have gift-giving ideas from the most elegant to the most athletic. Merry Christmas, everyone, from Timex.
Give me the sun, give me the wine, give me some country wine cooler. Give me the fun, give me the wine, give me the real juice cooler.
Don't give me heavy, just give me light.
Last season, the average player went through 42 pairs of sneakers. That's enough rubber to retread all the tires on 2 automobiles.
The most significant rebound in basketball this year belonged to the NBA. The league enjoyed a banner 1984-85 season, marked by renewed interest and record attendance. And the 2 gentlemen with the best seats in the house, Tom Heinsohn and Dick Stockton.
The 1984-85 NBA season had something for everyone. Julius Erving and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar again were all-stars. No surprise there. But a sensational rookie emerged in Michael Jordan of the Chicago Bulls. As far as the teams were concerned, the Los Angeles Lakers dominated the West once again, while the Boston Celtics fended off the Philadelphia 76ers in 5 games to rule the East.
Yes, Dick, but who could have believed that in 1985, the Cleveland Cavaliers would take on the defending world champions, the Boston Celtics, in a terrific first-round series. The Celtics would ultimately win, of course, and go on to a rematch of the 1984 championship series against the Lakers.
So the scene was set at the Boston Garden for Game 1, and throughout the Garden, Celtic fans harbored memories of '84. Boston's guard, Danny Ainge, finds the range early, scoring 15 points in the first period. Teammate Scott Wedman hit from all over, netting a perfect 11 for 11 field goals. And the Lakers came up short time and again as the Celtic fast break buried them by 34 points, 148 to 114. Back at the Garden for Game 2, the Lakers still smarting from their humiliation in Game 1. And it was their captain, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who took over, scoring 30 points. The Lakers 109, the Celtics 102. With the series tied at 1 apiece, the action shifted to Los Angeles. Both teams decided to get physical, as the action looked more like a wrestling match than a championship-level basketball game. And when the action was cleared from the floor, the Lakers blew by the Celtics 136 to 111 to take a 2-1 lead. Before the start of Game 4, league officials warned both coaches that violence wouldn't be tolerated. With the Celtics up by 2 and 23 seconds remaining, the Lakers turned to Abdul-Jabbar. But Magic Johnson knotted the score at 105, and it all would come down to this. Bird, double, Dennis Johnson, 2 seconds. It's good, the game is over. And so the series was tied at 2, and game number 5 would be played at the Forum.
Game 5 is the biggest game of the series because now that puts one team or other in the driver's seat.
And the Magic Man was ready, scoring 26 points and handing out 17 assists. The Lakers assumed a 3-2 lead as the series headed back to Boston. The proud Celtics had never lost the World Championship on the home parquet floor, and the Lakers had never beaten the Celtics for the NBA crown. And in the end, it was Kareem rising to the occasion, providing the inspiration the Lakers needed.
The Lakers are winning it. 3 in 6 years. LA comes to Boston and wins the world title.
And so for the 16th straight year, Tom, no team has repeated as world champion.
And Dick, in 1985, the NBA had world champions off the court as well. Players and owners became involved in the Ethiopian Famine Relief Fund to aid the over 8 million starving people in Ethiopia. Headed by Alex English, the players donated their all-star earnings.
We're going to make a small dent in a catastrophic situation of monumental proportion.
And as the NBA players gave to other countries, the trend has also started to reverse. 7'6" Manute Bol from the Sudan was drafted in the second round by the Washington Bullets. The foreign invasion began in the 1984-85 season as the Houston Rockets made Nigerian-born Akeem Olajuwon their #1 pick. But the NBA's Rookie of the Year award went to the Chicago Bulls' Michael Jordan, whose hang gliding skills made him one of the league's premier attractions. And everyone knows who this season's main attraction is: Olympic gold medalist Patrick Ewing of Georgetown. 7 teams had their chance at the first NBA draft lottery, and it all came down to this.
The second pick in the 1985 NBA draft goes to the Indiana Pacers.
The New York Knicks came out the lucky winner.
And then this past October, it started all over. A new season. The All-Stars back once again. Larry Bird, Isaiah Thomas, Magic Johnson, Kevin McHale, and the new faces like Knicks center Patrick Ewing as well. But can the Lakers be the first team to repeat as champions in 17 years? Only time will tell.
In 1985, after 18 seasons, the North American Soccer League folded due to lack of support. But over 3 million fans attended the major indoor soccer league, an all-time attendance record. Coming up, a year of champions the world over.
Here is one of the bare essentials for staying sexy. Jovan Musk.
Here in the United States, baseball, basketball, football, and hockey occupy a special place of honor. But other countries have their national sports as well. And here now are some of the sights and sounds of victory in a world of sports that's much wider than many of us imagine.
He's got good-looking line. He is on it. Canada's going to win the World Junior title.
In every country, there are the favorite pastimes. The arenas vary from the playing fields to oceans, deserts, and the local pubs.
Seen in every pub, picked up easily. As low. 140. Almost like an athlete coming into the stadium, a lap behind. As Bristow looks at 1 dot for the match double 16.
Turn on the telly in Britain, and you will, at most any time of the day, be watching snooker. The World Championship was held in Sheffield.
He's done it. Dennis Taylor becomes snooker champion 1985.
And the mind game. It began in September, ended in November, with Garry Kasparov, the world champion. From mind over body to bodies under rocks. In Spain, the Basque rock lifting and dragging champion. Tournament of the Five Nations. In this match, France beat Wales 14-3, but Ireland went on to take the cup. The last time it was cold enough to hold this event was 1963. It's called Elfstedentag. They race on speed skates through 11 cities. Everett von Bentham, the champion, in 7 hours and 6 minutes. 24 days, 8,500 miles through 6 countries. The Paris to Dakar rally includes motorcycles, cars, trucks, dust, and arguments, usually over buying gasoline. In the Stranger in a Strange Land department, American Randy Bass, playing for the Hanshin Tigers, led the Japanese major leagues in home runs. Bass belted out 54 homers, and that tied the legendary Sarahara O single-season record. Unfortunately for Bass, the final game of the season was against the team managed by O. So what happened? Well, Bass was intentionally walked 4 times. But our American in Japan remains a local hero. The Japanese love their records. They broke this one in September. I guess you might say, in time, all records must fall. Still ahead now, John Madden will bring us his most entertaining moments of the year. And 2 Americans, one a cyclist and one a skater, boldly challenge the world. And Tim Ryan will ring out the old and ring in the new year in the world of boxing.
I'm Dan Marino, and at Christmas time, I take care of the hands that take care of me. I pass isotoner gloves to the hands that catch my passes, and I hand off these custom-fit isotoners to the hands that carry the ball. And of course, I never forget to take care of my blockers, because how can I throw a pass when I'm laying on my back? This Christmas, give isotoner gloves by Aris, and take care of the hands that take care of you.
If you put... We're at the famous Gleason's Gym in New York City. And it's in gyms like this where boxers' dreams begin. The dreams came true in 1985 for the likes of Michael Spinks, Donald Curry, and Hector Camacho. And 2 new stars emerged on the boxing scene, Irish featherweight champion Barry McGuigan and the junior lightweight champion from Mexico, Julio Cesar Chavez. The fight of the year? Well, that's easy.
Las Vegas, Nevada, April 15th. Hagler and Hearns. Hearns eager to show that his knockout of Roberto Duran proved the hitman was back. Hagler still looking for that elusive respect. Round 1 was one of the best rounds in boxing history. And at the end of it, despite Hagler's ugly cut, Hearns was done. By round 3, Hagler, the natural middleweight, finished off a wobbly-legged Hearns. After a total of 8 furious minutes, Hagler had sent Hearns sprawling to the canvas to stay. In another battle of unbeaten champions, Donald Curry and Milton McCrory met to settle the welterweight title. In a dazzling display of poise and power, Curry overwhelmed McCrory, decking him with a left hook and finishing him with a classic right hand. Now, for the first time since Sugar Ray Leonard had retired, there was an undisputed world welterweight champion. And speaking of undisputed champions, Rocky Marciano's record string of 49 straight wins was challenged by Larry Holmes. But his opponent, a beefed-up Michael Spinks, seeking to become the first light heavyweight champion to win a heavyweight crown, outlasted a confused and weary Holmes over 15 rounds.
Decision and new IBF heavyweight champion of the world, Michael Spinks.
85 was one heck of a year for me. Yes, it was.
Afterward, Holmes reacted bitterly to his failure to gain the immortality of a Marciano.
I mean, if you really want to get technical about the whole thing, Rocky couldn't carry my jockstrap.
A different Rocky came back in 1985, Rocky Balboa for Hollywood's Fight of the Year in Rocky IV. While a real-life Rocky, Ray Mancini, had a movie made of his life. Boom Boom was busy trying to script a happy ending by regaining the title he had lost to Livingstone Bramble.
Final seconds, a good left by Bramble. Mancini firing away. The fight comes to a close in the center of the ring where they have been since the opening bell.
The final chapter of the storybook career was etched on Mancini's bloodied face. Suddenly, Boom Boom was yesterday's hero. His name is Barry McGuigan, and he is the unlikely hero who, by his success in the ring, has united Catholics and Protestants alike in his native Ireland. Only peace flags were flying as young Barry captured a world featherweight title.
It's a great incentive to know that at the end of the day, the people are, enjoyed themselves and threw their arms around one another and had a great night, at least one night during the week. And I'm very proud to be associated with that.
And south of our border, there's a whirlwind boxer named Julio Cesar Chavez. His unbeaten WBC super featherweight champion had a perfect year in '85 and may dominate for years to come. And the fur was flying when the best-dressed champion of the year showed up to bedazzle the world with his macho mania. Hector Camacho's splendor was more than sartorial as he beat Jose Luis Ramirez to earn his second world championship. But 1985 was not as kind to Billy Costello. Once the unbeaten WBC super lightweight champion, Costello was upset by an unknown, lightning Lonnie Smith, who scored 5 knockdowns en route to an 8th-round victory. While Smith's fans celebrated, Costello ended retirement plans and aimed a comeback attempt against another former world champion, the legendary Alexis Arguello. For more on that developing story, here's Pat O'Brien.
This was Arguello's last fight against Pat Jefferson. After 2 years, he's come back to make history to win a 4th title, something he's failed at before, but Alexis Arguello is not a quitter.
Yeah, I am in a situation that I survive or I drown. As a man, I say I will never drown if it's depend on me, because I know what to do.
The Alexis Arguello story is one of the most compelling in all of sports. It is many stories, really, one of rags to riches to rags again, of triumph and of desperation. But somehow all these stories seem to have the same ending, because Alexis Arguello always makes a comeback. Much of the story takes place here in Miami, Florida, but we begin in Managua, Nicaragua. Arguello grew up in the war-torn streets where if you didn't fight, you didn't grow up. 3 years ago, we traced Arguello's past, where he first boxed, his father, who watched the war with one eye, his son become a hero with the other. We saw Alex's dream home stolen by the Sandinistas while Arguello was away trying to make history. He'd won 3 titles in 3 different weight classes, and in anticipation of a 4th, they sported Arguello t-shirts back home. These were great times for a dedicated champion.
In life, I mean, if you take good care of yourself, nothing could happen.
We know Pryor is a great finisher when he gets you hurt.
But something did happen. Arguello was stopped by Aaron Pryor. It was a terrible blow, literally and figuratively. And after it happened again, Arguello lost touch with reality. And in the process, almost lost everything.
I think the saddest part, is I spent month with no knowledge. I was losing my wife, my kids. That was the only sad part.
He got into show business after the prior fights, and his life became one round of parties after another. He admitted to me he got into drugs, and at one point became so desperate he contemplated suicide. Were you going to use a gun? Is that what you were going to do?
Well, I never went to that moment to reach the gun, but I thought about it.
Who's desperate here?
Yeah, I don't know.
Now he thinks about his family again, even though his son has another hero.
Rocky.
Rocky, right.
Hold up your left hand. You're wearing a wedding ring again.
Yes.
The first time I've ever noticed.
First time in my life I wear it.
No more wild women?
No, I don't think so.
The challenge of the 4th title is a formidable one, but this time, now more than ever, Arguello doesn't want to let anybody down.
This is the kind of situation I come back better because I'm a survivor. I'm one of the, I think, the greatest survivor of the world because I don't have education, but I really have sense of responsibility.
In 1985, Wayne Gretzky was voted the National Hockey League's most valuable player for the 6th straight season. Gretzky shattered 9 more NHL records in leading his team, the Edmonton Oilers, to their 2nd consecutive Stanley Cup. Coming up, a year for the record books.
Next, the Redskins must win to keep their playoff hopes alive. The Cardinals would like...
Figure 8s on the ice. You know, unlike many of the other sports we've been looking at today, running, cycling, and figure skating really do not produce the scores of household names. Well, occasionally, you'll hear about the actual winners of an event. But to the endurance specialist, many times just finishing the race is a victory enough. Well, finishing is no small feat in the most grueling one-day events in the world of cycling. The 166-mile Paris-Roubaix Bike Classic. Those slightly bent personalities who attempt such a torture test find themselves with twisted bodies and bikes to match. You can see why they call this ordeal the Hell of the North. And in the thick of it was American Greg LeMond, who would go on to finish this race a historic 4th.
I didn't crash in front, so I had some luck, but we'll soon have enough to pile up.
July, it was time for Le Mans to set his sights on a more formidable challenge, the Tour de France, a Super Bowl of cycling that travels through the picturesque French countryside as millions of Europeans gather for a glimpse of their heroes. The Tour, the most prestigious event in the sport of cycling. Greg LeMond was hired this year to ride on Frenchman Bernard Hinault's team to help him win. To the French, the Tour is everything, and for 4 weeks through it all, the vignettes of drama played out in real life and to a television audience of millions.
Do you want me to punch you in the face?
A wounded Bernard Hinault after a horrible crash. Le Mans' tears of anger. The constant overpowering attention for Hinault.
Your turn.
The blinding exhaustion. It's a battle that has already left its marks. Despite a broken nose and a concussion, Hinault kept the lead on his way to a 5th Tour win. Along the way, Le Mans, though, became the first American ever to win a stage of the Tour de France. At one point, Le Mans had a chance to race for himself, but remained loyal, if not reluctantly, to his mentor, Hinault. And as the final stage cruised into Paris, it would be the veteran Bernard Hinault donning his 5th maillot jaune, or yellow jersey, which in the future may be worn by the American. The distance running calendar takes us to Rotterdam. And this year, Portugal's ageless wonder, Olympic gold medalist Carlos Lopes, 38 years young, broke the world record. He clocked in at 2 hours, 7 minutes, 11 seconds. The next day, over in London, Norway's Ingrid Christensen bettered her own world record in the marathon.
And this is a new world best performance. 2:21.06. Fastest time by a woman in history.
From there, Christensen crossed the Atlantic to the United States, the site of 3 great races. In Chicago, Christensen took on Olympic gold medalist Joan Benoit Samuelson. This picture of the friendly adversaries did not last long, as Joan went on to win it, though not in record time.
Steve Jones, the crowd is on its feet.
Meantime, for the men, Steve Jones took aim at Lopes' record.
It'll be close.
He missed by 1 second.